I want to talk about potential because, in all honesty, some people need a wake up call. They genuinely need to be jolted to recognize that everybody has potential to live a beautiful life. It's about the time and attention we put to it, the investment we put in ourselves. It has to start there because, like, you could meet someone, for instance, and you could be attracted. We're talking about love in general. It's really going to be hard to accept love if you don't feel love about yourself. So if you don't love yourself, it's going to be really hard to accept that someone else potentially loves you because you'd naturally be like all dismissive and think like, why would you love me? And question all the things about you. But if you know all about you, you've invested in yourself, then you already know your great qualities, and you'll actually admire yourself. But I just find it really sad as some people just completely let themselves go to the point where potential, it does no longer exist. It's hard to say that. It really is about people's lives. But that's the part that I just find incredibly sad, because if there's no potential, without being morbid or anything, like, what's the point? Like, if the rest of your life is going to be a repeat of the present, then what more is there? It's just an existence that's stagnated. So what's the point? The reality is a lot of the things I think about usually come from my own experiences. So it could be something happening to me personally, or it could be just witnessing other people around me, and it frustrates the life out of me. I've got people in my life who are just, they're so self-destructive. I'm not. I invest in myself and I do things that maybe go against the grain. Maybe most people wouldn't do or take the risks that I take in terms of finances, and the fact that I push the wrong people away and I set boundaries. So I invest in myself. I absolutely love myself. So it means I'm not going to put people around me who disrespect me, or don't see my value and all those things. So it's not a case of, it's like arrogance or egotistical of love of self. It's more a case of I've loved myself enough to not have anybody that's not really of value in my life around me. I value my time and my mental health matters. So all these things. It's like, I'd just rather be happy. And if being happy means on my own, then so be it. But the one thing, I don't think the thing anyone could ever attest to me is the fact that I'm stagnating it all. I'm always growing, evolving myself, my like philosophy and all sorts of things, and it all comes from myself. The things I go through in life, the experiences I have, I then process it, and then often I share it through the videos and through my books. So I'm not trying to elevate myself above others. I'm just showing where I'm at on my journey. There'll be people further along in their journey than me. There'll be people who are so far away from what I'm doing, almost a lost cause. And that's just the reality of it all, isn't it? There's no point sugarcoating things. You can't just make terrible decisions and disrespect yourself and then expect somehow that some magic wand's going to come to resolve your life. Because, like, for instance, people who are self-destructive, they abuse their body with like constantly alcohol, with drugs, with smoking, with vaping, all those things, even energy drinks and things like that. Like, there's no respect of the body, is there? You're destroying it from the inside out. And then you wonder why, and then those people wonder why their mind is corrupted, why they're like constant mental health issues, they're depressed, everything and anything that attunes to that sort of like low vibrational state. You've got to look at what you're doing to your body is a reflection to the outside, isn't it? So, like I say, if someone's got no respect for themselves, it's going to be hard to think where others are going to respect them first. But also, think about it, like if your potential's limited, it's like, what chance is there for a miracle to occur? It's not saying that it's impossible, but what potential is there for that to happen? Really, like, if you think about finances, for instance, you're doing absolutely nothing in your life to elevate your circumstance. No one's saying when you elevate, you have to be doing things that will naturally attract money, but something you do may eventually have a breakthrough, and then money could be like compensated. It could be a compensation, really, from the universe, or whatever you want to see it as. But if you're not doing anything in your life, it's going to be really hard to think where that potential is going to come from if you're going to talk about finances. So some people would naturally think the lottery. Yeah, anyone could win the lottery. The odds are very low, but anyone could. Me personally, I don't want to win the lottery. It's not on my cards. I don't want it. I'd rather earn the money through the work I do. personally. I'd rather it has substance to it. You know, I don't want just anything for the sake of it. What because I can't help but think, what is the point? If you go through life just expecting handouts, for instance, and you literally know there's no purpose to anything you're doing, then what's the point? It's just for me, it's just so. Trying to think of the word. I'm really gonna. I've lost track of that a little bit here. No, I can't. My mind's going all over the place. But anyway, if there's no substance to it, like what's the point of it? Like, because you could give me £1,000,000 out of the blue for no reason whatsoever, and it's to do with nothing that I've done. And what am I supposed to do with that? And maybe that million is supposed to carry you through life. Yeah, okay, you can create businesses and do all those things, but I can't help but for me, it was just it's superficial. That's what It's like really low. It's just pointless to me. Now I get it. If someone's got no ambitions in life, or you're doing nothing that sets you apart, and all those things, it could change your life. But I think for most people, it's not going to change their life. Think about it. Someone who lives a life very low vibrational. So again, they're easily susceptible to others' corruption. Really, so you're easily led. It's a bit, haven't got a lot of self confidence. You get a lot of money. People are going to take it off you all the time. There'll be pity parties. There'll be all sorts of things. There'll be people just doing everything they can to try and leech you dry. And then the money you do have, if you're very low vibrational, you're going to spend more on like partying, just doing reckless shit, thinking it's fun, takeaways. You live your life on takeaways on a daily basis. That'll start hemorrhaging quite quick without realizing. All of a sudden, it's just gone on so much destructive stuff because you never had stability. You was never grounded before you had it. That's really the big problem, isn't it? You're not grounded before you have it. So of course you get it at the wrong time. It's gonna corrupt you. So rather than you control money, money's controlling you, and it's like not a stable place at all. So like I say, the potential, even for potential for someone not investing in themselves, not doing particularly well in that regard, like they're doing all the wrong things, even if a miracle came, literally, if a miracle came and you think, wow, they would still destroy themselves with that miracle. And that's the sad part, isn't it? So it's real. I just find it really, really sad when people forego any potential in their life just because they've stagnated and just lost all respect for themselves. Like, it's really sad. So I'm going to use a couple of examples here, and it's going to have to be personal. I'm going to have to go there. There's no other way to share examples. I naturally have and had throughout my whole life specific people in my life who get jealous of me. And it's just sad because I'm not jealous of anyone else. I'm not in competition with anyone else, but they naturally get jealous. So any accomplishment, it's like, there's always like something attached to it, or so, some sort. It's ridiculous. It really is. But what people fail to do, with jealous people specifically, what they fail to recognize is the hard work and the consistency that goes into things. So let's say I had a breakthrough, because there's a potential for that, isn't there? I've done the books I've done. There's a potential for a breakthrough at any moment. I've done hundreds of videos on social media, from YouTube to TikTok. You don't know what videos get noticed. Now, I'm not saying those will, but the potential's there, isn't there? So it's not necessarily about one piece of work or just one piece of content that I created. It's the consistency of the content. There's too much out there for it to be ignored, realistically. But so what does that mean? It means I've been consistent with what I do. It's not a case of you just did something for just a moment and you got lucky. It's like, no, I've worked my ass off for a prolonged period of time to build the potential. Well, that's the thing. It's about investing in ourselves. So I'm going to share other examples here. Now, again, like I said, I do make some decisions that other people maybe wouldn't make. But again, that's doing things outside the ordinary. It's like investing in myself in ways that the average person wouldn't. What they consider a risk is naive. What they think of something else is lazy. It's really just interpretations. If you go, I see it like this, and I don't want to be critical, but some people will go through life like sheep. They will literally just go to work continuously. Whatever someone tells them to do, they'll do. And they'll go through their entire life like that. And then as soon as someone steps outside the ordinary, they go a different path, they invest in themselves, they take risks. People always there'll always be something to chip away at with that. And when it seems like they're doing nothing, because it might seem at times you are, they'll be considered lazy. And again, naive. And it's just a waste. And it's like that's their judgment of that person. But the potential's there for a big breakthrough. What is the potential for someone who just does what everybody else is doing, acting like sheep? if you are just going to your 9 to 5 job, you're doing something you don't like, it's like makes you really, really miserable. You only have to look when you think about potential. You just got to project yourself in 5, 10 years. What potential is there? Is there something like there's no guarantee it changes, but what does the potential? So what I've always said this, even in the workplaces to people, like, I'm more interested in my creativity, the products like my books and things. That's my priority, not the job. And they could never understand that. They always thought that's reckless. It's like, well, to you it's reckless. To me, I've got bigger dreams than this. And like, so for instance, if you're going to continue down the path that they're going, it stands to reason the best opportunity they're going to have is a potentially sideways job doing similar what they do, maybe slightly more pay, nothing life changing, or maybe you get a promotion. But even then, most promotions nowadays are just more work, rarely more pay. But again, you start working up the ladder. Who knows? In 10 years, yeah, if you're ambitious, maybe you do move up to management. It's never going to make you. If you're going to talk about like wealth and things, it's not going to make you rich. It's just you're still going to have stresses and maybe even more stresses. So maybe you have a more fancy car and a slightly upgraded house, but you've got an immense amount of stress. So again, these are obviously very niche things, and I'm picking at certain parts. It's really just to point towards the potential. For someone who maybe doesn't have ambitions and they just go to work, they're miserable, they're not happy that much, they haven't got a lot of free to spare money, they're literally going from paycheck to paycheck. Their potential, although they think they're working their ass off, in which they are, and they think everybody should be doing the same as them, it's like, but why should everybody be doing the same as you when you're clearly miserable? You don't have much resources left after. It doesn't seem like a copy, something to carbon copy here. It doesn't seem worth like repeating, does it? You know, because where's the potential in it? The potential is you're struggling now. In 10 years' time, you're probably still going to be struggling, and that's rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. If it's a physical job, what happens when if you have issues with your physical health where you can't literally do what you're doing to the same degree now? Your life's going to be turned upside down, isn't it? So then you've got to go back to school. All these things. So potential really is where we invest in ourselves. It's not necessarily investing in somewhere else. So you might think, well, I'm loyal to the job, I'm doing this, and this is what the work society expects of me. Well, that's nice. But what are you doing for you? That's how you have to start thinking. Otherwise, if you have a short-term mindset, that short-term could very well be your long-term. And that's all I'm saying. Like I said at the very beginning of this video, I just want to open people's eyes to things. I'm not saying do what I do, because again, it's going to depend on what abilities you have, like where your skill sets aligned with. It's going to be hard for someone who maybe doesn't have specific skills. But again, it's about identifying it in ourselves. You know, I'm good at writing, but I always put it off for a long part of my life because I like to challenge and test myself. So I naturally try to find things that I'm not particularly good at, or it doesn't come natural, or it's something new, and I like to challenge myself in that direction, thinking that's what I should be doing. But once I started writing, it was like coming like easy to me. And of course, I've always been good at communicating, often got in trouble for it, but here I am talking, and again, it's an effortless thing for me because this is actually my skill set, communicating, and philosophy and all those things, psychology. This is actually my natural ability. I don't need education in that sense. Of course, we can learn off one another, but it's something that just comes to me. You know, I can just witness anybody, and I'll straight away pick up an image of what lifestyles and all sorts of things, and I can even project what likely their future is based on the pattern that they're on now. You know, in the path. But some other people, I guess it's hard to witness that, and it's hard to figure things out. So maybe they feel a bit lost. So again, like I said, I'm going to get a bit more personal now. We're going to talk about individuals. I've already discussed me, and now we'll say let's focus on my brother, for instance. My brother, his health has declined a lot. That's self-imposed. You know, lack of activity, laziness at times, but also it's just constant alcohol. Like he's been drinking most of his life, constantly like smoking and vaping. He's just destroyed parts of his body, and he's put on an awful lot of weight. So his breathing's not particularly good anymore. So from a health point of view, his quality of life has diminished immensely. Like, but if we go back in time, it was avoidable. And even now, it could be reversible, but they never take action to change anything. So with that in mind, and obviously they can't work because of all that, but they chose not to work before that. But anyway, if you go down that path and you project forward, the current isn't particularly great, and the projections for the future, even if you just look at the way people behaving, their lifestyles, where they're at now, and all those little things, it's not looking particularly good for the future. So where's the potential? So then what's the point? Like, it's without being like horrible about it, but it's like it becomes like, what's the point though? Because if you've literally got nothing positive potential wise, and this is the best you've got, and it ain't particularly great, like what? I don't get it. You've got to change things. You've got to push yourself outside your comfort zone. If your health's in decline, try to reverse it, or at least try to sort of like even it out. But do something. Get a bit more active. Start working on your diet. Start working on things. Take away the cigarettes. Remove the alcohol. Start if there's any if you're excess sugar, take away the excess sugar. If you've got too much caffeine, start working on that. It's like literally, our future is in our hands, or lack of. And you can only take accountability. You have to take accountability of it. So, like I said, my brother, for instance, has been jealous of me a lot, like throughout life, even when I have nothing for some reason. I don't know why. But he's like, and now, like, if you see what I'm doing and the risks I take in my life, but it's always calculated risks and what I perceive to be the right decision. And I don't consider myself particularly unhealthy. I have attractions to like sugar myself, but even I'm balancing that out. I'm taking ownership of it. And if there's any issues, I address it as soon as I can. But on contrast, you've got someone who's sort of almost given up. But it's like, who's responsible here? And I just think it's really sad when you see people like, when you project life forward, it's like the potential just isn't there. So currently, as it is, if he continues what he's doing now, the lifestyle, rinse, repeat, literally, he probably hasn't even got that many years left because of the health situation. It just stands to reason. And then you think, in that time, what's your quality of life like? Not great. And then when you go back, if you have a reflection on your entire life, it's like, it's just tragic. So what's the point? That's my point. I'm not saying this to be cruel. It's like literally I want to jolt people to look at their life. How has it been up to now? What's the potential for the future? And how are you going to fulfill that potential? That's literally so important. So my nephew, he's a mixture of everyone. He's easily influenced. He can go from one extreme to the other. It's just 1 minute he looks like he's making progress. The other, he's just relapsing. And it seems to be wherever the easiest opportunity is. I'm not going to go too deep into him, but I've given up because it's not my problem. I've got to work on my own life. I can't keep, it looks like he's progressing, then he's regressing. So he might even have a health scare. You think you take it serious. He doesn't take it serious, glosses over it, and then continues to do the alcohol, continues to do the vaping and the smoking, and he's done drugs in the past, and there's no guarantee he's not doing it now. You just don't know because he'll lie about it. So the point is, as someone who's completely abusing their body, even though they have a very charismatic, funny personality, they have so much potential, but they're limiting their potential because they're destroying themselves. And I've had the conversation with him many times. Sometimes he learns the lesson a little bit, starts growing. Other times just doesn't pay attention because he's too busy in that mindset, or he's around people who influence. So, for instance, because of my brother's situation, my nephew's now, or at least he either now is or will be, claiming carer's allowance in the UK. So you get money weekly paid to you for looking after someone who is considered someone of needing help. So he's just seeing it as a free, like a cash cow, really. It's a free opportunity to have money. Don't have to do anything, really. It just has to be in the vicinity, and that's it. And he's made peace with that. He's comfortable. And I'm like, that is outrageous. Like, I've said it so many times. Like, I've said it to him. Where's the potential in it, though? Like, if you think you're struggling for money now, or you're going to struggle for this, how are you going to afford that? And he's like, I can get that. I can easily get that with that, if I can just save a month. It's always like little bits. Like, I'm going to we'll find a way just to wiggle through to get. But the potential is so limited. Look, on the one hand, you could say, well, what happens if that falls apart, and then you've got to look for a job in 5 years? But the reality is, if you've been caring for someone for 5 years, you can easily explain someone needs my help, even though the reality is it was just really laziness, wasn't it? But you could hide behind that. So there's ways around it, but the potential to really be successful is going to be diminished. I think life stagnates, life stays still while the world around you is moving forward. That's really part of the problem as well. Other people might be elevating while you're stagnating. But like anything in life, we can turn it around. So he's obviously younger than me, so he's got lessons to learn. But you've got to think at some point he's got to learn the lesson. But the potential he has, I consider him someone who has an awful lot of potential. if he harnesses everything in the right way and starts respecting himself from the inside out, I think he has immense potential. But I also think there's an awful lot of negative potential. So if he if he takes the easy way out in life and he's easily influenced in a negative way, then his life will be just as tragic as his dad's. And I just think, what a waste of life. Like, literally, it's your decision what you make. If you want to take the easy way out, just take the handouts because you can, and you consider that your success story. I think it's a shame. Push yourself, find the things you're good at, and start harnessing that and investing in yourself. You could literally be like really healthy, so you have a potential for a long life. You could literally be thriving on doing the things that really, really bring you passion and joy. And because you're literally shining and you're the best version of yourself, you may attract someone who's literally going to be there throughout your journey, rather than these little short-lived romances that just end up chaotic all the time. But again, people's potential is in their own hands. It's like, what do we want for ourselves, you know? And literally, it's up to us to figure it out and make the decisions. Like, sometimes you're going to make some bad decisions, but it's about fixing it, taking ownership of it, and then try to like build upon that and restore some semblance of success. So we can take detractions, but you're just going to have to accept that, you know? So everything's going to cost us in time or money. It's just the way it is. So you've got to have to ask yourself, for instance, are you prepared to sacrifice some money to even train or build something or do something? It might mean you have to take yourself away from the what the sheep are doing with the everyday consistently, like a train. Sometimes you have to take yourself off the train just for a period to reset, find yourself, and do something that brings you passion and joy. See, if you invest your time in the right way, it's irrelevant whether you're financially successful or not, because you can take 2 years to yourself. You can take a significant period where maybe you're on benefits, maybe you are struggling for money, but you're not just sitting at home wasting your life away. You know, you're not doing that. This isn't a case of you've just given up. You're actually investing time into restoring yourself. So there's ways around it, but people might ridicule and they might judge that because they don't understand it. Because a lot of time people seek validation, whether they really, really say it outright or not. Someone who, for instance, is working 50 hours a week, 60 hours, some people do crazy hours. And as soon as you're doing less, they start picking at it and go, oh, well, I'm doing all this. It's like, yeah, you're looking for validation that what you're doing is worthwhile. It's not. It's not. You're just freaking greedy as shit and you won't admit it. And your lifestyle is such that you can't actually maintain a normal lifestyle balance now because you've made it too extreme, where you have to work those hours to live the life that you consider worthwhile. Even though you're miserable, you don't have time to enjoy it because you're working all the time. That's your failure. You know? And that's the reality, isn't it? It's like people will project their failure as a success story and expect you to mirror it, which would only harm you. You end up living a miserable life, mirroring and mirroring and mirroring. It's a bit like if you thought, the best way to put it, with these people who just think working 50, 60, 70 hours a week is great, just think of it like a miner. You've got people, they've got the soot all over the faces, you know, they just look a mess. And there's a risk every time they go to work and all these things. And it's like like their lifestyle, because the work we do is part of our lifestyle. There's no point doing something 50, however many hours a week, and then you've got like hours, and then you've got hours beyond that after to do the things you want. There's no point half your life being shit just to try to compensate to make the other half of my life good. It's got to be all encompassing, isn't it? It's got to be, I want to do something I enjoy. I want to bring something that brings me passion. It can't feel like such a drain, because there's no way the time that I'm away from it will be relaxing, because I'm still fed up from the thing I've been doing and I've got to go back to it. You know, that constant freaking pulling at you to make you miserable, that doesn't sit right with me. That shouldn't be normal, but people have normalized it and then they try to ridicule others. So look, it starts with ourselves, isn't it? Investment in ourselves. And then I think it's just important that people do reflect honestly with themselves and say, how is my future based on what I'm doing now? What is the potential for my future? And of course, doesn't mean potential gets realized. You know, people always set extremes. Oh, of course I can be this, I can do that, I can have this wealth, or I can have this attention, or I can be this, do this role, or this. But it doesn't matter if you reach the height of that potential, because most people won't. You know, it's half the time it's unrealistic. But the point is, by setting the bar at least a little high, it gives us a chance to get somewhere near it. So even if you don't quite reach the high accomplishments that you really, really want to get to, at least you've reached something. And it's far better than the stagnant crap of the others. you know? So, like I say, at the end of the day, it's about investment in self. So, for instance, I might get people project the misery of their life on me, put the weight of their disappointments for me to solve sometimes, you know? It's almost like fix it all the time because they expect you to be there for them and they expect you to do this and that. But I'm too wise to put up with that nonsense. It's like you're accountable for your life. If you're not happy now, fix it. But don't expect me to derail myself. Like the investment I put in myself, don't expect me to derail that to try to be your hero. I am the hero of my story. It's up to you to be the hero of your story. You can't expect people to do it for you because who's doing it for me? That's the point, isn't it? Anyone can climb out of a situation. Anyone can turn their life around. But it's how much do you want it? If you're in an abusive relationship, for instance, I understand how hard that'll be to get out because you'll feel like a prisoner and you feel like any wrong turn could be literally devastating. But if we don't take steps to get out of that situation, you know where the potential of that's going to be, don't you? Do you know what I mean? Like if it's something like that, for instance, the potential is damaging beyond repair, isn't it? Like literally, your life expectancy could even be low. And if you've got kids, for instance, it's like the potential for them to suffer mentally as well as physically. And of course, if something happened to the parent, of course, their life unravels. But the potential for you to be happy in a situation like that is just the potential isn't there at all. The only potential is to remove yourself from there, heal, fight, discover self. So it's literally going to be about taking the steps to get away from that circumstance. And there's charities and places that will help. And then it's not jump into relationships because if you don't find a time to find that self-confidence and start setting boundaries and asserting yourself and deciding what it is you actually want, which takes time. It's a process. And also I think it's important to repair the bond with your children to make them feel safe, heard and seen. You jump into a relationship, for instance, another relationship, it may be that the children are always second best and you don't even realize it because they've never had your undivided attention. So I think you get yourself out of a situation that's entirely negative. You focus on rebuilding your life from the ground up, which takes time. It'll feel vulnerable and it'll feel tough. And that's fine. That's part of the process. You don't have to have all the trinkets throughout all of life. It's okay. We can start with nothing. Nothing means you've got nothing to lose. Nothing means that everything is up. It can't get much worse. Well, that's great. Because if you can cope and survive in this, imagine the potential. So then you start working on yourself. And then eventually, when you love yourself enough, you will attract people. But you'll have people, maybe you go, no, they're not for me. Because your standards are now high and you start seeing the red flags in people. And then maybe you meet someone who's actually incredible. And it's literally everything the complete opposite of what you had before. And it's because you invested in yourself and you built that life. So you're fulfilling a newer potential. And that's literally what we've all got to do, invest in ourselves and then I think just wait for the miracles to come in, really. And when I say miracles, it's always going to be the big things. It could literally be it could be just someone enters your life you didn't expect. And it's like they're going to change your life forever in a positive way, It could be this situation transpires that you didn't see coming. Or again, it could be money. It could be all sorts of things, travel opportunities, who knows? But we have to give ourselves the potential, And it's no point other people sort of like looking on, jealous and wondering why and thinking I should have that. It's like, why should you have that? Like, if you be honest and transparent with yourself, like, you haven't done anything like of substance to even acquire things like that or see that potential. Why? Like, for instance, I've been in destitute poverty a lot. Like on my journey, I've had money. I've had good jobs that pay good money. I've left jobs that pay good money because I considered them toxic, poor management, poor working conditions, miserable environment, you name it. I'm not going to keep, and I've set that in my life. Like, I'm not saying other people should just mirror that, but I'm saying the standards I have in my life go beyond money. So I could literally be today buying all sorts of things that I want, not worrying about the cost of it because I was doing well for money. But I removed myself from there and I've done it multiple times. So, like, for instance, you could have work colleagues, for instance, who maybe they've stayed there. Maybe they're miserable doing it. Maybe they just make excuses because they were making excuses to stay when I was there. Now, maybe in the future, I have a massive breakthrough that goes way beyond what they're doing financially. And they might think, well, that's not fair. I should have that. They might think like that in their head. But why should they have that? They never took the risks I took. So they never left that job. They were too scared to lose the basic salary they had, which gave them more in the period where I've been creating what I've been doing. Also, I've been putting myself in the public eye. And I've been accountable every day. So I'm not saying what they're doing is invalid, because it's not for me to figure out their potential. It's for them to. If you're staying somewhere that's making you miserable because someone's giving you some extra money, because it's more than the average job, fine. And I've already had this discussion in the past as well. Your potential in 10, 15 years is, yeah, your pay might go up each year because there might be pay rises. But if you're miserable today, 15 years, you think you're going to be any happier? You figure it out. But that's the thing. It's for people to figure their own lives out. And what the whole point really is that you take the consequences. You take the hits if there's hits. To build my future, I'm taking the hits. But I've been prepared to take it. It doesn't make it easy. Believe me, it's not easy being poor. It doesn't feel particularly good. You don't feel particularly strong sometimes when you think about that. And you definitely don't feel happy all the time. There's a lot of pressure all the time, There's a lot of things you feel like you're missing out on. But I also have my freedom. And freedom for me is worth more than all the trinkets, the treasure, and the gold, So anyway, I'm not here to like boast about anything, to project my potential onto other people. It's really to get people to see their own potential. And it's really only they can do it. And it's no point like sugarcoating shit. You tell yourself this can happen in 5-10 years. That's great. But what are you doing about it now? Because if you're not doing anything about it now, you can put it off and you can say, I'll deal with it next year after Christmas. Okay. But be honest with yourself. What are the odds of you actually doing that? So people tend to keep repeating patterns. And it's only when you break the cycle, you give yourself a chance for change. So you got to ask yourself, what is it that needs changing, and what is the potential, Again, there's positives and negatives, but I think if you have the right intentions, even if you make mistakes, you'll rectify it, you'll learn. But if we sort of destroy ourselves at every opportunity by excess things, then we only have ourselves to blame when our life is not particularly good as a consequence. So anyway, I want to leave it on a positive note by saying, let's invest in ourselves, let's focus on our potential and give ourselves something to smile about, because I think we all deserve it, but it's about proving it to ourselves.